Imagine being trapped in a desperate struggle for survival, surrounded by the unrelenting advance of a ruthless enemy, and knowing that your last hope is crumbling. This was the Soviet disaster in Ukraine, a pivotal moment that changed the course of World War II. What happened when the Eastern Front collapsed and the lives of millions hung in the balance? In the summer of 1941, the Soviet Union found itself at the mercy of the Nazi war machine. The German army had launched Operation Barbarossa, aiming to crush the Soviet Union in a matter of months. By September, the Wehrmacht had pushed deep into Ukraine, encircling key cities like Kyiv and Leningrad. But things weren't going according to plan for the Germans. They faced logistical nightmares, exhausted troops, and a seemingly unbreakable Soviet defense. Could the Soviet Union withstand this onslaught, or was it all about to collapse? However, just when it seemed like the Soviet Union might buckle under pressure, something incredible happened. The Red Army began to turn the tide. It wasn't just luck, it was strategy, resilience, and the unyielding will of its people. The battle for Ukraine would become one of the most devastating yet heroic chapters in Soviet history. This was a turning point, not only for Ukraine, but for the entire war. As the Germans advanced into Ukraine, Kyiv, a strategically vital city, was under threat. By September, the Germans had surrounded it, but the Soviet leadership refused to retreat. Despite dire warnings from their generals, Stalin's orders were clear. No step back. This decision set the stage for one of the fiercest battles of the war. The Soviet defenders fought valiantly, but the Germans had overwhelming numbers. What went wrong? Was Stalin's stubbornness the cause of the disaster? Ukraine's southwestern front was one of the hardest-hit sectors during Operation Barbarossa. The German army was ruthless, utilizing their blitzkrieg tactics to inflict devastating losses. Yet the Soviet forces refused to give up. Even as their lines broke, local commanders devised unorthodox strategies to delay the German advance. These small victories would ultimately help the Soviets regroup for a counteroffensive later in the war. As the Germans pushed deeper into Ukrainian territory, they encountered not only the Soviet military, but a massive network of partisans. These underground fighters launched relentless guerrilla attacks, sabotaging German supply lines and providing vital intelligence to the Red Army. Their actions in the forests and villages would become crucial to the ultimate Soviet victory in Ukraine. The German advance into Ukraine was not only hampered by the strength of the Soviet resistance, but also by the unforgiving terrain and harsh weather conditions. The infamous Rasputitsa season, the Russian mud, halted the Germans' mechanized units, leaving their tanks and trucks stuck in the muck. But it wasn't just the weather. German supply lines were stretched thin, and the overstretched Wehrmacht could not sustain its momentum. Could the Germans have avoided this disaster? By the fall of 1941, the Soviets were beginning to regroup and reorganize. They had not been defeated. They had simply been worn down. With winter setting in and the Germans bogged down, the Red Army launched a devastating counteroffensive, pushing the Germans back from Kyiv. This marked the beginning of the end for the Wehrmacht in Ukraine. What had seemed like an inevitable Soviet defeat was now a hard-fought victory. The Eastern Front was a brutal and unforgiving theater of war. But in the heart of Ukraine, the Soviets demonstrated an incredible ability to adapt and fight back. To learn more about the battles that shaped the course of history, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next documentary. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think were the key turning points in the Soviet defense of Ukraine? As the battle for Ukraine raged on, one question remained. Could the Soviets maintain their momentum, or was this only a temporary reprieve before the final collapse? Let us know your thoughts on how the war in Ukraine would unfold in the comments. Stay tuned for more on the Eastern Front.